Where will Alex Bregman go? So let's hit some rumors, okay? First off, John Heyman's latest report is linking him to either the Blue Jays or the Red Sox as the likely favorites. Our friend Lou Merlone, who checks in sometimes on the show, said Bregman seems to be waiting for the Sox to come close. I have no idea why he wouldn't have signed already. Look at Burns. If I'm not getting what I want, make a good offer and I'll play at home. I think Bregman wants Boston, not that he lives here. I mean, to go against Lou, Todd Father, that's just not how the process works. Some of these deals get done quicker. I think based on last year's kind of dead market and players signing late and some of them signing to those prove it deals and then end up making money afterward, like a Matt Chapman or a Blake Snell. It's just the way that the cookie crumbles. And Bregman and Pete Alonso happen to be two of those players that, frankly, I think behind the scenes, you have front offices saying, I see some flaws here and some concern for future years based on the contract ask. And that's where you have a little game of chicken going on right now. I think there are plenty of teams interested in his services. They might not be willing to offer him $200+ million. So we'll see what happens. But what do you take on where he could end up? And does Boston make the most sense to you? Is that what they need to do the most?
Yeah, I mean, let's think about this. You see what Corbin Burns did, and now everybody's like, oh, man, let's all stay at home. Or, why haven't they made a decision yet? They're putting all these pros and cons, as we talked about yesterday. Well, no, that's not how it works, as you said. The player wants what he wants, and I'm sure the player in Alex Bregman is willing to come down or change a few things, and, the organization hopefully is willing to change and do a few things. And this stuff doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it takes 4 days, like it did with Corbin Burns, which is great. Sometimes it takes a day. Sometimes it takes months. So it's all different scenarios. I would love to see him in Boston. I think that's a great fit for him. I think the way their organization is going this way with some of the players they've gotten already, I think it'd be awesome fit. But you also think about Rafael Devers, right? Have we forgotten about him? He's an absolute beast. Is he willing to move? I think he'd be fine with it, but it's just, if you're getting a guy like Alex Bregman, a guy who can mash and who's played at a stadium where it's a short porch and can get after it and can play some defense and is a really good baseball player, I think where they're both at in their careers, I think it would be a fine fit.
Anytime you add a bat that produces unlike he did last year, like the previous years of his career, he had a down year offensively. I think that's exactly what Scott said. To me, I think it's the size of contract that has maybe scared teams away from signing him. But to me, I don't think they've made an offer yet. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that no team has made him an official offer yet. And that's what's holding it up. I think he's put out there what he wants. They're shooting for the moon. Unfortunately for him, as they're shooting for the moon, Yankees are off the list. The Astros are now off the list. The teams that he could go to are dwindling. I thought there'd be a chance he maybe would go to the Phillies, but I haven't heard anything about that. And now you only have two teams, and really the one team is just in on everybody. So I don't know that I really count the Red Sox, but I just feel like he may have priced himself out of the market to sign up until this point. I think he'll sign soon. I don't think it's the Red Sox. If I'm going to choose, I don't think he signs with the Red Sox just because they already have Devers and they hopefully can upgrade in other spots.
For me, I think the best offer is probably going to come from Toronto, but I'm not sure if he wants to land there. He loves living in Texas. No, that's not going to be the case anymore. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he might not have a choice if he's looking for the most dough. I think the Tigers will make a decent offer, but if the Blue Jays are seriously interested, they're going to defeat them. I mean, the Blue Jays have been looking to spend their money somewhere. I do have a tip for the Blue Jays, and we're going to talk to Mike Wilner later. They should probably spend it on getting a deal done with Vladdy first and then moving on to the rest of the market. But anyway, I think the Tigers are definitely interested. I heard you guys talking to Cody Stavenhagen yesterday, but he said, I mean, they're not likely to go to a $200 million plus mark. The Tigers are doing a little bit of budget shopping. I liked the Gleyber Torres move, but I just don't see them suddenly spending that kind of cash on a free agent. I don't think it's just ownership, too. I think it's a very calculated front office that doesn't want to over leverage itself on any one player. And there is still the Javi Baez PTSD, that comes from previous GM. So when you add all of that up, I think he'll get a nice offer from Detroit, but I don't think it'll be the largest offer, Kratz, just like Burns. That's the part where I'll totally agree with Lou Merloni, is that Corbin Burns didn't take the highest dollar that we saw, and there were some deferrals in there, right? Taxes matter. So Arizona versus Toronto is a massive, massive difference. But I do think that the Blue Jays are going to be the team. And I do think the Blue Jays would thrive the most from having him. I think Alex Bregman is a culture-changing player. The way that he preps for games and gets every teammate involved, I think, is needed in some other organizations. I think that's why Boston's interested in him, because they've got all these young guys that are about to come through, and they're like, I want them to learn from him. Detroit feels the same way. Hinch was over in Houston with him, so obviously he loves what he's bringing to the table. But Toronto lost Matt Chapman last year, and that was one of the most underrated components of what happened to the 2020 case, right? You've talked about it a ton. Sure, the bat isn't superstar level, but it's an above average bat. It's a well above average teammate, and it's the elite glove over at third base. So Bregman would help fill a lot of voids there. And if Toronto thinks they're going to compete in the AL East next season, they have so much more to do. So I think in their case, they should be desperately looking for a bat like this.
Or what you were saying before, not even talking about competing this year in the AL East. Whether they will or they won't, it's going to come down to their pitching and defense. If you want to keep Vladdy, you can't just be like, hey, Vladdy, we're just going to throw this amount of money at you. He needs to have somebody around him. And we'll talk to Mike about it. I got plenty of questions about re-signing Vladdy, but you got to have somebody there. And if it takes 6 years from Bregman, 7 years, maybe that's enticing to keep Vladdy there.
Yeah, I'm curious. We'll get to that with Mike Wilner later too. What do you got, Top Father? Last thought here, and then I want to get to your boy.
No, that was
Pete.
It's one of these markets where all of a sudden, as we're getting closer, not only Bregman, but some of these teams might try and be like, you know what, we got a couple weeks left here. I mean, take it or leave it. And some guys are going to say, okay, shoot, my market just dwindled to this. All right, I got to take it because I got to play and I got to get some money. So we'll see how it goes here. It's getting to that point.
Yeah, we're showing some of the comments. I think one was joking when they mentioned the Dodgers. He's not going to be a Dodger. It's Max Muncy's spot. Toronto more likely to get Santander than Bregman from Sicilian. Okay. I saw someone throw a Detroit out there. Jays lost nothing by losing Chapman. Mantis, no. They definitely lost a lot.
Stop.
Did you watch the team last year? I mean, I'm not saying it was the only reason why they sucked, but Blue Jays were a bad baseball team last year. Would Bregman play third base next season or second base from Cole? Either one. I think he's open to variety. Yeah. But if he goes to Toronto, he's playing third. If he goes to Boston, I guess it's a little more interesting, right? If you're on Boston, could he play some second and Devers stays at third and Casas first?
Could. I mean, he's going to Boston for exactly what you said. Teaching young guys how to have good at-bats, because Devers is already the superstar. They don't need him to be a superstar. Good at-bats and solidify that right-handed need of a hitter.